Welcome everyone to MailFuzz TV. I am Peter and today I'm going to be talking about Unreal Season 1 Episode 4. It's called Wife. So spoilers for the episode. This is a Patreon sponsored review, so thank you to Born Now for picking this show. And this episode kind of progresses the possible romantic hints and progression between Rachel and Adam. Kind of takes it in some interesting directions. It also kind of spices up the whole Quinn and Chet, like what's going on with them, and adds more to the backstory to that, which I do think adding a bit more to the backstory about how Chet, might have kind of stolen the concept of the show from her and this other guy that she's kind of like rekindling with now, is making that a little bit more interesting, certainly, than what it had been before. And I think it was more interesting to me here because I think one of the themes of this show, especially with the employees, although arguably with the cast as well. When I say the cast, I don't mean the cast of this TV show. I mean the cast of the TV show within the TV show. The girls and Adam, is that power dynamics are kind of a big thing in this show. Certainly in this episode, I felt it coming up a lot, all the way to the end of the episode where Adam effectively is. Now, admittedly, he doesn't seem to be that fussed with having sex with a rich wife to get like a deal set for this like vineyard funding or whatever it is. Still, he ultimately is pushed into whoring himself out from powerful people, and he's fine with that. Maybe he's even into the idea of having sex with the older woman and the fact that he's getting something else out of it's maybe just a plus. But power dynamics are a big thing here, and this idea that Chet especially is wielding power over everyone in this episode in some form or another, and the ripples of that kind of reverberate throughout the entire show, basically, at this point. Obviously, with Adam, I just mentioned, the kind of oh, hey, we'll fund your vineyard and turn it into a spa that's branded as like a tie-in to the show, and we'll all make tons of money off of it. So that's how that power comes into it, and like, hey, but this rich wife, this other investor, the wife wants to have sex. So that's the one way in which Chet's power dynamic comes into play. Another one is when Rachel has to ask for his help because she's having trouble with the local government about getting the vineyard's power turned on because it's kind of been abandoned, and they won't do it. But it turns out Chet's like investor friend is like a politician in this other place, wherever they said it was, Napa, I think they said. I don't know how far that is from the rest of the show, but whatever. They seem to drive there easily enough, so it can't be that far. So, but the point is, though, is that when she asks for this help and she thanks him, he says, you don't have to thank me, but you owe me one. And he kind of like taps his nose, which felt kind of sexual, to be honest. It felt a bit creepy, like, oh, he's going to be expecting something bad down the line. Or maybe, perhaps more likely, I don't necessarily, in the moment I thought, oh, he's going to want sex later. But by the end of the episode, I kind of felt like it was more that, no, he's going to want her to do something that helps him get back at Quinn or forces Quinn into a situation. And then maybe her loyalty is going to come up. In fact, loyalty to Quinn versus Chet is even a subject that comes up, because one of the other power plays in the episode is Chet wielding power over Jay and using him to be a friend and go get hookers together, even though he's gay and doesn't really have an interest, but he wants to pitch Chet his own shows. But when Quinn finds out that he's helping him, not specifically about that, but more about this spa thing idea towards the end, she like wants to fire him, and he puts up a fight and makes it clear that it'll be a big bit of trouble if you fire the one gay black man on the show. He's going to he'll finish the season and then he'll go work for Chet on other shows. And Quinn's like, you're being naive, you're not going to get anything from him. He chews people up and spits them out. So again, power play. And then obviously the mother of all of this is Quinn herself, right? Chet wielding this power over, and it's really emphasized by the end of the episode, but I love how it's sprinkled throughout where, okay, he keeps showing up on set and basically using his position of power to continually kind of try and harass and like talk her back into being a relationship, and she stands her ground and says, no, we're done, get out of my office, right? She does a job of that. And it inspires her to actually rekindle with this old friend whose name I did not catch. Was it Graham? I'm seeing a Graham in the list here. Obviously, his photograph. Oh, I need the actor's photograph, IMDb, not whatever you're trying to show me. Let's have a look. No, that's not him. That's that's the host of the show. That's the one. But we start the episode with him having sex with someone who just got evicted, and then from the show, I mean, and then like setting her off because again, the power dynamics. Yeah, it's a big theme in this episode. He's brought her in, had sex with her, and then when she starts trying to like give ideas for how she can have a role somehow in the future, he just says, "Oh, I'll call you a cab to take you to the airport. You're done. Like, go home." So again, power play, right? There's someone with a power dynamic. Right, Bill was the name of the other character I was looking for. So Quinn rekindles with Bill, has dinner, and at first you think, oh, this is just like an ex that she's rekindling with. That's all it is. But very quickly we find out, no, this guy hates Chet and wants to sue him because he is of the opinion, and seems to be confirmed by the end of the episode, that him, Bill, and Quinn developed the idea for this show everlasting together, and Chet somehow stole it. And perhaps maybe stole it via like sort of seducing Quinn and kind of like starting that relationship. And he's like, hey, if you have your original pitch book that we wrote together, like we could use that as evidence. And Quinn denies that she knows where it is, that it even exists anymore. But later on, when she's with Chet, pulls it out and says, you know what, I'm done. But one of the key lines that really stuck out with me in that scene where she's finally confronting Chet about everything that's going on, because he tries to woo her back in, saying that he wants her to design this spa resort that's going to tie into the show because she's so good, and he's trying to woo her. And she's like, yeah, but I'm not going to own any of it. In fact, I developed this show. It's made billions of dollars, and I don't own a single stake. In fact, I could be fired from this show at any point. Like, that line in particular, this idea that he wields the power of firing her is very, like, poignant, right? And he even tries to wield that earlier on when he makes a point of saying, I made you. I gave you all this success. I did that for you. And she kind of fights back with saying, hey, maybe I'll leave the show and we'll see how much you made me, or, you know, who made who. But it's definitely something, it's a card that he plays. I made you. And then she's pointing out at the end that she has no control over something she created. She doesn't have the rights to her own creation. And, you know, maybe Bill has a point. As much as the fight between Chet and Bill's a bit childish, although Chet's definitely the one who starts it all. I mean, I get that she's like, oh, boy, stop fighting around or whatever, but, like, I'm still kind of thinking that Bill's just kind of reacting to what Chet's saying to him. Maybe he could be extra mature and just kind of shoot the whole idea down. But I feel like Chet is doing most of the yelling in that scene when it happens. But so yeah, anyway, so what I'm saying is this theme throughout the episode of power plays, and all of it almost entirely leading back to Chet. Not that no one else is guilty of it, not that no one else is a victim of it. Everyone kind of in the show that isn't Chet is in some way kind of a victim to it. You know, Adam's a victim to it. He's a victim to the fact that he wants funding for this vineyard so he can do it on his own, as you know, away from his family, something that's not like going through his father because he doesn't want to be a failure. But when he tries to actually get that funding, the two investors that he initially has say, oh, if it's not tied to your family's business, then we don't really want to be a part of this. You don't have the credibility on your own to do this. So this idea that he's trying to get out of the power play from his father. In fact, one of the, I think, best scenes in the episode is the scene where he kind of begs Rachel to let these investor guys stay around, because she's like, no, get these guys out of here. Quinn will flip a lid if she sees them here. And he's like, no, I need to do this. I can't go back home and just like be a failure again to my father. I have to like do something on my own. And I really like this scene, one, because it tied into this theme of the power dynamics throughout the episode, but also because it actually really neatly tied into Rachel as a character. And I think she can sympathize with this, because Rachel, the entire last episode was about her mother and like what her relationship is with her. And I think like on some level she is sympathizing with what Adam's saying here, and that's why she ultimately gives into it. Now, Rachel does bargain for something in return, which is that she wants a particular bit of drama for the TV episode. So she's like, hey, in return, I want you to kiss one of the girls in front of the rest and sell it. And of course, it turns into this intimate moment where he kisses her just right by the side of the mouth. And Jeremy captures this on camera, and, you know, like, she's like, hey, it's not what it looked like, I was producing them. But at the end of the episode, when she sees the footage, which Jeremy offered immediately, he's like, here's the SD card. This is the footage. It's all yours. You can do what you want with it. It's unusable. No one has to see it. you know, he's kind of a champ, to be honest. Jeremy, like, so far has been mostly just a nice guy who, when he's mad at Rachel, usually it's somewhat justified, because she's done something. But the end of the episode is her looking at this footage and seeing this moment, and she sees the reaction on her face when this kiss happens, and it's undeniably a moment of, like, I'll call it happiness. I'll just be simple and call it happiness. But it's definitely a moment that she sees and then instantly deletes the footage because she doesn't want to admit that she feels something. She wants to deny it. And the show is constantly putting her and Adam into these situations where he's half naked and getting dressed. It happens again this episode when she's confronting him. But one of the key incidents in this episode that kind of gets everything going is that he's been sexting with his ex-fiancée, and the magazine found out about it, and, like, she's confronting him about that, and he's like, I'll blow over, whatever, it's not a big deal. But they're like, no, it is a big deal. So they do one of the great little twists, and this show does this, you know, even just in these 4 episodes so far, there's been these little moments where something looks like an accident, but it turns out it was intentional, and in this case, it's like, oh, she puts the magazine with all this gossip about him in the trash, but one of the girls sees it, and this is like, oh, this is going to create a disaster. But as soon as the girls are all, like, talking about it, and they make everyone aware that they know about it, and they want to, like, see Adam, she turns around and says, they took the bait, send out Adam. Like, they're trying to create the drama. That's one of the fun things about this show. I've been enjoying kind of them playing with that, and this, like, sort of almost evil, like, manipulation that's going on with the cast of the reality show. So that stuff's still really fun, but what makes this episode, I think, particularly good is this, like, very strong theme throughout. And because that very strong theme also plays into this, the idea of, like, is Rachel starting to form some kind of feelings for Adam? Because it really, I think, honestly, like, just to go back to, like, towards the end here, when Adam is, like, makes this deal and Rachel hears the sex sounds from the other side of the door, and, like, then opens the door and sees Adam having sex with this woman. Adam sees her there, and, like, it's like a moment they make eye contact. And in fact, she then looks over and sees that this woman's husband and Chet are both watching, and then Chet notices her and makes eye contact with her and gives the little tap the nose sign. Like, I think what I love about her reaction to this, when Adam comes up to talk to her, and he's so casual, he's like, oh, I had my hands full before, what was it you were wanting? Like, he's so chill about it, and she's obviously annoyed, and well, I think just first of all, I would say that this moment of him, like, doing this actually feels like the darkest thing in the show so far. Like, obviously it's not like a super sinister thing, and he doesn't certainly seem to care about it all that much, but something about this felt just like a little bit, like, skeevier than anything else that's happened in the show. Especially the way he just kind of nonchalantly is like, yeah, it was fine, whatever, I'll do what it takes. Like, he didn't even think about the idea that he was whoring himself out, but she thinks of it that way. She says that. She says, no, this is, we're selling romance here. This is, like, do you not care that you do this? And she kind of grills him for it a little bit. And ultimately this ends with her saying, yeah, I'm your producer, but I'm off the clock, so get the hell out of my face. Like, she's mad. And I do love the idea here, and I think this is what brings the is Rachel and Adam becoming a thing, and then all of the power play stuff. I think what makes these two things fit really nicely together by the end of the episode is that I think that both the reactions, or both reasons for her reaction, are completely valid. One is the idea that he's kind of despicable that he's doing this, and it's kind of like something she's judging him for, and it's maybe bad for the show because of the dynamics and all the rest of it. But then there's also the idea that is she also just really mad because she is feeling some kind of jealousy? Or not jealousy, that's not the right word. I don't think she's jealous that she's not the rich wife who's been pumped for effectively an investment. So jealousy is the wrong word, but more hurt because he's done it, right? Hurt on a personal level because she's starting to have feelings of some kind, right? Which is funny because obviously all episodes she's like, hey, kiss another woman. And he does. He kisses, I think Mary's the name of the woman who's a little bit older than the rest of them. And they make out, and it's a whole thing that she wanted. And she's like, yes, my plan's coming to fruition. So it's not like the sight of him with another woman is instantly a problem for her. But this one hurt, right? I think even if she's denying it, it hurt. And everyone else seems to be aware. Everyone that knows her intimately seems to be aware that there's something brewing. Jeremy clearly is, like, acting a little bit weird, arguably jealous with Adam, even though he kind of reaffirms, like, hey, you know what, I'm over it, I'm with Lizzie now. Like, I'm not mad that you didn't put in a good word for me, even though he got the job as DP anyway. He's not mad about it anymore. He's over it. But he just kind of gives her a warning. Hey, be careful with this guy. And she's like, what do you mean? But then Quinn also is like, stop thinking with your clit, which, by the way, is an excellent line of dialogue. And I don't think I've ever heard a woman say that before. I've heard many people say to a man, don't stop thinking with your cock or your whatever, your balls, your penis. All of the variations. I have never heard stop thinking with your clit. That is pretty funny to me. But all of these people around her that know her well are spotting this, and they're saying, hey, this is a thing that's happening. You clearly, there's something is brewing here. You're going down a path, and you have to, like, keep this in check. And then she goes and looks at the footage, and I think it's a bit of a shock to her almost when she sees her own reaction to that little kiss from earlier in the episode. She knows it's true, and that's what makes her delete it. It's the denial. It's like, no. This is not real. It's fake. It's unreal. to put a finer word on it, and she instantly deletes it, and that's your stark ending of the episode. And I like that because so much of the show is people denying who they actually are, what they actually feel, and whatever. But all the power plays stuff in this episode, I keep saying power play, power dynamics is what I'm really trying to say. I think is a really strong through line throughout this episode, and I think good TV writing sometimes is understanding obviously what your overall story is that's going through all the episodes, but it's making sure each chapter, each episode has a distinct focus and theme that episode is about. And I think this idea of people being stuck in a power dynamic is all throughout the episode, and the fact, like, it would work if it was just the Quinn with Chet stuff. It would still be all right, but it's more compelling because there's other characters who are a victim of Chet's power dynamics, including the rich pretty boy, right? The idea that this rich wife was looking at him like he's a piece of meat and like giving him the eyes, and there's little hints that she's attracted to him throughout the episode, where it's like, hey, he's a charmer, isn't he? And she's like, oh, I'll say, like, she's really laying it on thick. So all of that stuff builds up, so it feels like it's all crescendoing to a point that makes sense late in the episode. But the fact that it all ties into this idea, and maybe even points out some of the inequalities here, this idea that Adam's a victim of this power dynamic, but either he's too naive and dumb to be bothered by it, because, hey, sex, right? Or you could argue that there's an inequality here in that for him being a guy, it's not as big a deal. He just kind of rolls with it, and he's like, whatever, right? But again, you could argue that that's just him being naive. Maybe he will regret this later. Maybe if things keep being asked of him, it's going to become more of a problem. Like, maybe once upon a time when Quinn thought she was getting ahead by being intimate with Chet, and I'm not saying that she just made the choice to have sex with him purely for gain. I'm not accusing her of that necessarily, but if that's how it started, or maybe it was, it was wrapped up in oh, he actually cares about you, even though you're the bit on the side. As that progressed over time, she's clearly reached an end point now in her story where she's more and more aware of who Chet is and how he's using people, and is far more jaded and cynical about it, and sees clearly for what it is. And she does feel disgusted and a bit used, and doesn't want to be around him anymore. And I do wonder if, like, Adam kind of represents, not 1-to-1. I don't think she was exactly like Adam, but like maybe in some ways where he's at the start of that journey of being used by this person who's going to keep using, right? He's going to keep using him in some way. Maybe not as much because he happens to be a guy, but like when he has something that Chet wants or benefits Chet, he's probably going to abuse it. So I think the playing with those dynamics throughout the episode is really consistent. It's really strong. There's some funny lines, there's some funny reactions. A little mini bit of the story here that's worth mentioning is that Athena, who's the one black woman who's left on the cast of ladies, she basically goes to Adam and says, "Hey, I'm not really expecting to win, and I don't really even want to marry you." Like, she doesn't say it in those words, but that's effectively what she says, is that in the real world we wouldn't work. There's no point in pretending we would. But how about you keep me around to the final four, and I'll be an ally. I'll be a wingman, as it were. And says, deal. And Adam gets pulled away before he can even really respond to this. But it is interesting that Adam rejects that, right? When he's making the decision at the end, and they've got put all the names in the envelopes or whatever, and they're finding out who he's picked. Athena is kicked out, right? This is the end of her story, and she's mad about it. Although the cynical commentary from Rachel and Jay in the production booth is that she's actually been very smart by yelling the way she is and playing the race card, in the sense that she's going to get talk show interviews out of this. She'll make money off of it. She'll actually propel, like, because from the start of the show, she's been playing the card intentionally because she was told that would be what advances like her in the story, and it'll get her more success and money, which was her goal in the first place. She's arguably just being smart by doing this. But I think it's interesting though that Adam rejected that and didn't want someone who was just going to be a yes person or someone who was just making a deal. It's interesting when he's arguably the one who's like above someone in the power dynamics, that he did not find that appealing to be the Chet in that situation. Now, admittedly, it's not a 1-to-1 because she's offering to be like a scheming like ally underneath or whatever. But it is interesting that he didn't find that appealing, and maybe that paints a deeper character trait that on some level he doesn't find it appealing to use someone, even though he's accepting being used himself. And maybe that kind of disconnect in his own personality will eventually reveal how he feels negatively about what deals he is making, what he's willing to do for those things, self-respect, all that kind of stuff. But it's planting some seeds there that are pretty interesting. And I enjoyed some of the other bits and pieces in the episodes. Simple stuff like Adam put it into his contract earlier that he wanted them to use this vineyard so he could use it as promotion for it. But they get there and it's a shithole. So there's a lot of fun stuff with Rachel bad mouthing it and saying we have to like fix up like just a little bit of it so it looks good on camera, and that's going to cost money, and just kind of like the idea is like, hey, movie magic, you'll make it look great, right? And it's like, yeah, but we have to redress it, we have to do all this. So it's like, there's a great bit actually when he's taking Mary away on a walk so he can kiss her. There's a line where Jeremy operating the camera says you can't walk beyond this point, because beyond this point the bad parts that we've not dressed up are going to start to show. This is the edge of the usable set, and I enjoy those little bits and pieces of the production of it. And maybe it's just because I'm interested in the logistics of production and kind of the trickery of like, if one more like inch off camera and you can see the edge of the set kind of thing. That stuff's fun to me, and the playing with that and like realizing he has to do it this close to the other ladies and their reaction to it and all that is kind of fun. So yeah, no, I think it's a really strong episode. Like, I liked the last one, but it was probably my least favorite because there was less show stuff compared to the first two. I think this one brings all that stuff back in. I think it's a really good character study of Adam and to an extent Rachel, and definitely Quinn. I think I've always liked Quinn herself as a character, but I don't know if I necessarily loved the Chet stuff up until this point. And I think it's mainly because I could see that she was already like on her way out of the relationship, and it kind of felt like we were just going through the motions to get her to that point to be here so that we can actually have the conflict and the actual advancement of the interesting parts of the story. So now that we're here, though, I'm definitely enjoying it a bit more, and it's fitting better into the rest of the show now that all these things are firing off. But like I say, this one almost felt the darkest, which is saying something given that previous episodes had like, the death of loved ones being used to manipulate people and get better shots. But something about the behind closed doors weird sex deals just made this feel a bit skeevier, and not in a bad way, but certainly did have a feeling. So yeah. Anyway, that's my thoughts on episode 4 of UnReal. Should be back with the next one next month. So let me know what you thought of this episode in the comments. And of course, you can support everything over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and get bonuses and whatnot and help keep all the content coming. But thank you very much for joining me. I always appreciate it. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?